This is the best all-in-one video and audio solution for podcasters, streamers, or even small live event teams. This is the brand new RODECaster Video, which is a video and audio production console that gives you control over practically every aspect of your production, from video switching to audio monitoring and mixing, and even recording and live streaming. The RODECaster Video pretty much does it all. The best comparison that I can think of is that this is a combination of an ATEM Mini Pro ISO switcher and a RODECaster Duo audio interface. It kind of combines the best aspects of each of these units into one unique and powerful package, which is pretty cool. When you order the RODECaster Video switcher, obviously you're going to get the switcher itself, which is going to look really nice. I really love the build quality of this thing, and it feels like it is going to last quite a while. You'll also get a high-speed USB-C cable, which is really important. This is a really good cable, so you don't want to lose this. Make sure you hold on to it. Additionally, you'll get the power supply and power cable to power on the switcher. This is a USB-C power supply. And then you'll get two antennas that screw onto the unit to be able to connect the RODECaster Video to a Wi-Fi signal. And optionally, you can purchase an additional cover for the RODECaster Video to keep it safe from any dust or scratches or unwanted hands or animals jumping up on your table and messing with your RODECaster. The RODECaster Video is going to launch for $1,199, which I think is a fair price point for what you're getting, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the video. All right, let's talk about some inputs and outputs that you have on the RODECaster Video, because this is one of the most important things when it comes to a video switcher. You need a lot of inputs and outputs, and you want those to be reliable. So when it comes to dedicated video inputs, we're going to get 4 HDMI inputs that are all 1080p resolution. So the switcher is not a 4K switcher. It's limited to 1080p, which we'll talk about a little bit more. And you'll additionally get 2 HDMI outputs to send your source or program feed or even a multi-view display to 1 or 2 computer monitors or production monitors. So this is great that you get 2 HDMI outputs. We do get 2 combo XLR and 1/4 inch inputs with really great preamps. So these are the same Revolution preamps that we've seen in the RODECaster Pro 2 and the RODECaster Duo. These are really great audio ports that power microphones that would even tend to need a cloud lifter in order to have enough gain and enough output to be able to put out a high quality audio signal. The combo ports on this unit are super strong. You also get 2 1/4 inch headphone jacks to be able to monitor audio, as well as 2 ports for a left and right speaker output to monitor audio from a set of speakers. It also accepts a variety of other audio inputs from HDMI sources, computers, and even things like wireless and Bluetooth audio devices and more. Rode is obviously an audio company first and foremost, and has been known for their amazing microphones and wireless microphones over the years, and they certainly did not skimp when it came to produce their first video switcher in terms of audio specs. Now, there are several other USB-C ports that we need to talk about. First is USB 1, which outputs a video and audio signal. So this just sends your video or audio feed to your computer for things like live streaming or recording videos or Zoom calls, etc. USB 2 is a control port for the switcher, so you can connect that to your computer. And it's also an MFI or made for iPhone port to connect your iPhone or other smartphone devices to integrate into your production. USB slot 3 is a USB storage slot. So this is where you can connect an external hard drive to record your video or audio files to. And finally, slots USB 4 and 5 are multi-purpose USB-C ports, and they can be used to connect USB video devices such as capture cards or webcams and other Rode USB audio devices such as the RODECaster Pro 2 and Duo, and a range of their other USB powered microphones. So that also means that with this slot, you could add a 5th or a 6th camera so long as it can act as a webcam through its like USB-C port. So this is the ZV-E10 Mark II, and with this camera, you're able to live stream via the USB-C port. So now I can switch to a different camera angle, and this is a 5th camera input that I can use right now, and it's a super clean feed with the ZV-E10 Mark II. This is super cool. Of course, one of the main highlights of this unit is the fact that it is a video switcher. You can input 4 dedicated HDMI feeds into the caster and switch between those units with a press of a button. So currently my main camera input is the Sony FX30, that's camera 1. Camera 2 I have over here to my right, which is the Sony a7 IV, and I'm using the kit lens actually that comes with a lot of these full frame cameras, and a lot of you hate on the kit lens, but that's a nice looking kit lens right there. Input 3 right now is my desktop view, so I'm using my camera as an input source. And camera 4 is a top-down view of the Sony ZV-E10 Mark I, and that's just showing you what's going on here with the RODECaster on the table. And I mean, honestly, this is pretty cool. If you've never used a switcher before, it really feels kind of like magic. Like you have this secret hack and your audience doesn't really know what's going on, and then you're switching camera inputs and angles, and it just feels pretty cool. I've used many switchers over the years, and in terms of familiarity and just consistency with workflow, the RODECaster video is very similar to a lot of other video switchers on the market. Now, when it comes to frame rates, ideally you're supposed to have all of your cameras set to the same frame rate, but I actually ran multiple tests where I would change the frame rates on my cameras, and I actually still maintained a strong and uninterrupted video signal. So the RODECaster video is great at interpreting all of your footage and signals just to make sure that they're all outputting the same frame rate. But when it comes to resolution, this is actually where you are limited to only 1080p resolution for all of your camera inputs. And I tried to hack this and just see if there's a way that I could input a 4K video signal, and that did not work at all. Every time I tried, the camera feeds just went black. So no matter what you do, this is not a 4K switcher. There are some physical buttons on the RODECaster, starting with inputs 1 through 6. All of these right here are camera feeds, so you could input up to 4 cameras, and then inputs 5 and 6 are those additional USB inputs right there. And the buttons A through G control some different custom scenes that you can build, which I'll show you in just a second. And then if you click this media button right here, you can also switch it to some different media that you can instantly start playing by just hitting one of the buttons. Now, speaking of building scenes, you can build a bunch of different scenes in the Rode Central app, which I'll talk about that app a little bit more in a minute. But I've currently already built 3 different scenes, and I want to show you those, starting with this A input. I've created kind of a side-by-side view to where if you wanted to show 2 cameras or 2 input feeds at the same time, maybe one input on the right would be your guest, and then you on the left could be you, and you do a side-by-side virtual podcast. That would be a way you could do that. Custom scene B right here is a side-by-side view of me and my computer screen, so I could do sort of a reaction video or a full screen back and forth podcast with a guest on my right. And then number C here is more of a reaction style video. So if I wanted to walk you through my script and my outline for this video, you could see that. Or maybe we'd want to go through our YouTube studio and do some reactions about our YouTube analytics. We could do that as well really quickly. And that would save you a bunch of time in post-production, so I wouldn't have to go record my screen and then pair that in my editing software and put myself side by side. You can just pre-build a scene just like this, and now you're doing reaction commentary style videos with just one click of a button. Now, if you do want to connect a computer device, it's actually really easy. All you need to do is choose an HDMI slot on the RODECaster to plug in your HDMI cable to, and then plug the other end of that HDMI cable directly into your computer's HDMI slot, and the RODECaster video recognizes your computer as an input instantly. Now, there's also an option to import media to the RODECaster video to play back high-resolution video files and images without needing to bring in your computer to play those videos. All you have to do is make sure you have a high-quality micro SD card in the RODECaster, and then go into your Rode Central's media pool, and you're going to add media from your computer, and you can add anything like video clips or images. So I'll add this image right here. We'll just hit open. And now if I just hit this media button on the RODECaster, it changes my top row to different media options. And I've assigned that Think Image to option A right there. So now anytime I hit option A, I'm going to be able to see that Think Media background image right there. And then I can switch back to a different camera input. Currently for option B, I have a wedding film uploaded. So if I hit option B, it'll immediately start playing that video. And we can hear the audio as well. That's a really cool feature and a great way you can access different audio and video files that you often need for your productions. Now let's dive into some more of the audio features of the RODECaster video, starting with the fact that, like I said earlier, you get very similar audio inputs and quality as the RODECaster Duo has. The 2 dedicated combo ports allow you to plug in XLR and 1/4-inch cables, and again, the really strong Revolution preamps that are in the RODECaster video are super strong, so strong that some of the weaker microphones like the Rode PodMic or the original Shure SM7B, these weaker microphones with weaker preamps, they don't need a cloud lifter because these preamps are so powerful in the RODECaster video. You also get the powerful Aphex audio processing, including the ability to add EQ or compressors, or a noise gate or a high pass filter, de-esser, and a bunch of other effects directly to your audio recording. This will save you a ton of time in post-production if you don't want to have to EQ and compress your audio after the fact. You can do this right here on this video switcher and dial in all of your settings. Now, since you're working with both an audio and video signal, sometimes there is a delay in the amount of time it takes for your computer to receive your video signal versus your audio signal. So this sometimes is known as video latency, and audio tends to not really have this problem, or at least it's it's not as extreme when it does occur. So because of this, you need to compensate for the video latency with what is called audio delay, and the RODECaster video actually has an audio delay feature. I'll switch to this top-down view and navigate through my settings so you can see this audio delay setting right here. If I click that, you can see that I'm currently delayed by 6 frames. And for me, it's usually between 5 and 6 frames that I see the audio needs to be delayed in order to be in sync with all of my cameras. Now, if this is new to you, don't worry. All this really means is that if I didn't add this delay, you would be hearing my voice just a few frames before you would see my mouth move, and it would just look really weird. So you will have to add some audio delay to your broadcast or your recording. It just depends on what cameras you're using, what HDMI cables you're using, and what microphones you're using as well. So like the newer RODECaster products, the RODECaster video has some built-in audio receivers to accept wireless audio signals from newer Rode devices like the Rode Wireless Pro system, which is actually the audio source that you're hearing right now. This is a really cool feature to not be tied down to your setup, and you can kind of walk around and have people more mobile but still use the RODECaster video as your audio source. Using a wireless mic is great for podcasting setups that are a little bit more relaxed, like a classic 2-person couch interview kind of vibe, or Sean has been doing this Wednesday Q&A series where we used one of their Rode series microphones, which has been really great. So it's really cool that you can connect the RODECaster video to some of their wireless microphone units. Now, USB slots 4 and 5 also have the ability to connect the RODECaster Pro 2 or Duo for additional microphone inputs and a hands-on audio control unit. This is really cool if you're working on a live production and you want to have a dedicated person focusing on video switching, and then you have another person focused on audio mixing, and you just have designated control boards for each person. You'll just select the appropriate USB input that your RODECaster Pro or Duo is connected to, and then adjust your audio levels accordingly on the RODECaster video. You can add additional USB microphones to slots 4 and 5 as well. So in theory, you could have 4 podcast style microphones running into the RODECaster video. And I wanted to try this, but it did not work with some of my other USB microphones, which was a big bummer. So it looks like this is only limited to Rode only USB microphones, and you can't just use any style USB microphone. It's got to be a Rode product. I understand why Rode does this, but I wish they would open it up to other USB microphones as well. Now let's talk about this update of Rode Central and what you get with the RODECaster video. First, you get wireless connectivity for real-time configuration and scene building and audio mixing. So what this means is you do not have to be connected to the RODECaster video with a USB-C cable in your computer. You don't have to be tied down to a scene like this. I could actually take this computer and go downstairs and start controlling the video switcher from a different room in my house, as long as these units are on the same Wi-Fi network. This is great if you're working with larger teams and you have producers or directors or camera operators who just need to be in different locations, but multiple people need to be able to see what's going on with the RODECaster video, and you can't physically be right, within arm's distance of the video switcher. You can monitor from the Rode Central software. Rode Central is also how you enable the ISO recording function to record each channel of video independently of your program feed. So right now I am doing a live recording where all of these cuts are baked into this video file, but let's say I didn't want to have these cuts and I wanted to be able to re-edit this video with all of the individual camera inputs. So camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, which is my computer screen, and camera 4, which is overhead right here. You do get access to every video file, and you also could enable multi-track audio recording to get access to every single audio track and then completely re-edit your production in editing software later. There's also a really cool auto switching function, which is especially useful for podcasters who don't have a producer to handle all of the manual switching. Now, I didn't get a chance to test this out because I'm not running a podcast, and it senses different people's voices. So you indicate on the screen which cameras and microphones go to person 1 and which go to person 2, and you can edit the frequency and the priority of how often you want to show camera A versus camera B. This is actually a really cool feature with a ton of potential, so I'm excited to see how I can use this further down the road. The RODECaster video can do so many other things as well, like keying out blue screens or green screens if you're working with those. You can also hit this button to enable your auto transitions. So if you want to have these kind of cross dissolves, look at how beautiful these are. You can use these for your different videos. I'll actually switch this to dip to black, so it'll dip to black every single time it does a transition like that. And you can actually extend the time. So if I wanted to change this to like a 2-second wipe instead, I just changed that to wipe. Now it's going to wipe for 2 seconds. Oh my goodness, I would never use this. There are so many more features that we could talk about, but I want to leave you with one more feature, which is just how easy the RODECaster video is to pair with something like Zoom or other streaming or webcam devices. So when it comes to using the RODECaster Video as a webcam, it's very easy. I've already used it for several Zoom calls and meetings, and all you have to do is plug the provided USB-C cable into USB slot 1, and then plug the other end of that into your computer. And then at that point, your computer is going to recognize the caster as a video source, and you can select that as your camera input. You can also select it as your mic and speaker source by selecting the RODECaster Video USB chat input, which is going to allow you to hear yourself still through your RODECaster, but it won't send any echo of your voice to your guest. So that's really important to select that USB chat input. So when it comes to kind of the competitors in this space, obviously Blackmagic would be the first competitor that comes to mind with their ATEM Mini Pro ISO. So this is a 4-input HDMI switcher for $495. So significantly cheaper than the RODECaster video switcher. But when you look at the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, which obviously has 8 inputs instead of the RODECaster's 4 video inputs, but you also get inputs 5 and 6 on the RODECaster, which are sort of able to be used as multimedia inputs. So you can use webcams and capture cards on inputs 5 and 6 as well to get another media input. So I'd say the RODECaster sort of sits between the ATEM Mini Extreme and the ATEM Mini Pro right now. But then it has a lot of the same audio capacity as the RODECaster Duo. So you're sort of getting an ATEM Mini switcher plus the RODECaster Duo and the best parts of both of those. And that's what creates the RODECaster Video. Now this unit is not without flaw. There are a few things that I would like to improve, starting with obviously there's no 4K support. I get that a lot of live stream situations don't need 4K, but if you are using this for more of a recording tool and not a streaming tool, 4K would be super helpful. Everything we do on this channel is still done in 4K besides live streams. So if I want to just do my normal YouTube style videos, I'm going to have to be recording internally to all my camera feeds and not use the RODECaster Video. Another issue I see is that you don't get an XML to edit your production after it finishes. Now, one of my favorite features of the Atomos Sumo 19 recorder, which is a touchscreen video switcher and recorder, is that after your production is over, it spits out an XML file so you can open that up in Adobe Premiere or DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut Pro to retime some of your cuts that you maybe messed up without needing to completely re-edit your entire video. I would love to see a future firmware update where Rode gives us access to the XML files. There's also not really a quick way to access physical audio controls on the unit. You of course can dive into your touchscreen menu and navigate to adjust some settings, but I personally would love to be able to click some of the different pads to be able to mute my mic and turn it on and off really quickly, or adjust some audio gain faster. But at this point, I don't think there's a super fast way to be able to switch some of your audio settings without having to dive into the really tiny 2-inch touchscreen. Now, when it comes to our overall recommendation, for $1,199, this is a pretty steep investment than a lot of the other 1080p HDMI switchers out there. But most don't have a very robust audio interface or capabilities that this one has. So I think it is priced fairly for what you're getting. You're kind of getting both an audio interface and an HDMI switcher for that $1,200. If you're someone who has a need for this, you probably already know who you are and this video has enlightened you and you realize this is absolutely for me, or you're thinking to yourself, this is not for me at all. So I totally respect that. I think this is great for someone like me or for Sean, who often have to do live streams from our desk setups. This is going to help consolidate some of the equipment that we already use for live streaming and recording and just pare it down to one cohesive unit. But when it comes to producing 4K videos like we often do on this channel, the RODECaster Video isn't designed to do that. So I'm still personally going to need to record most of the time on my camera's SD card in 4K resolution and then edit my projects manually, which is just a bit of a bummer. If you are someone who's wanting to start a video podcast and want to see some of the best microphones you can buy for under $200, you can click or tap the screen right here, and we'll see you in the next video.